righty, sports fans, I've got an interesting one for you now. Most of us out there that run boats have to have some propulsion on the back of it. We have to have something to get us from point A to point B. I have Debbie Pricpke with me right now from Mercury Marine, and we're going to be talking about some of the new stuff, aren't we, Deb?
Yes,
we're going to be talking about some of the new stuff coming from Mercury, folks. This lady is a wealth of knowledge, so let's take the opportunity to learn from Deb. Deb, tell me a little bit about what's going on at Mercury. What should we know, Debbie?
Oh, there's so much you should know. As you know, Mercury Marine is constantly coming up with new, innovative stuff. Come down to the show. You can see we've got our new 600 horsepower.
That thing is amazing.
It is beautiful. There's so many times I step back and I have to remind myself how proud I am to work for a company that actually is this, innovative and comes up with so many fun things. So if you come down and see that, that's great.
Oh, that is such a killer rig. I tell you, I walked over there when the show came in, and you and I were standing there, and I looked up, and you're looking up at this thing. It's huge. And what's neat about it is the technology that you guys have put into the lower unit.
Yes.
Everybody knows that when you run a big boat and you run a big motor, you deal with torque. Torque is something that is just, it's insane at times. And torque on the high end when you're running a boat at Mach 2, it can be a situation that's, it can be dangerous.
It's got to be controllable.
It can be, because it has to be controlled. Now that technology that's in that, Debbie, is that going to go into more of the lines, more of the horsepower lines, or is that staying up there with that big motor?
Well, what I can tell you is Mercury Marine comes up with new ideas every 6 weeks. You never know. You want to keep your eyes open for stuff.
Oh, folks, did you hear what she said? What I can tell you is Mercury Marine comes up with new stuff every 6 weeks. That is so cool. And they do, I want to get in because Mercury does everything from the littlest of the motors, obviously up to 600 horsepower. And it's fun to talk about 600 horsepower. There's no doubt about it. That's the dream of people to be able to afford that, put it on a board that they can afford, and be able to say, hey, look what I got. But let's start at the bottom end of the line. Where are we in horsepower range? And kind of graduate.
Currently, we're starting out at 2.5 horsepower. We have different families, but we go from 2.5 all the way to 600. Everything is 4-stroke. And
everything is 4-stroke.
Yep, everything is 4-stroke. There's no longer 2-stroke. And everything from 2.5 to our 9.9s are carbureted motors. Yet, and then we also started at 9.9 and up being EFI.
Really?
Motors, yep, which, as you know, to be EFI is making it a larger motor, electronically fuel injected, better starting in the cold weather, stuff like that. But it also gives you the opportunity to grow with Mercury in your boating world.
Yeah.
Start out with your smaller boat. As you grow, you change your boats, you can get into the bigger motors. You can get up into the 175 and up. Those are V6 and V8s. So, those are just been introduced a couple years ago. So as, the performance, the torque, as you said again, being able to give them the torque that people want, out a whole shot, and get on plane faster, it always helps to have the right power, but also the right gear cases and the right props.
I've got a friend of mine that, I've got the generation before this. I've got the Pro XS, just standard, two-stroke, standard, go fast down the water, and it's a very dependable motor. Starts every time you want it to start. It does everything you need to do.
Yep.
A friend of mine who also ran the same motor took it to end of life. These things have a shelf life, if you will. He took it to end of life, and he put on one of the new ones, a 250 V8.
Yep.
And he is off the rocker with this thing. He called me up and he said, Bob, you need one of these motors. I go, no. You had to have it. I will have to eventually. And they're not, every technology out there has a price tag on it. And these motors, when you're stepping up in these motors, where are we looking at on a retail side? I know all the dealers can do their things and all that.
Yeah.
Where are we stacking? Say the 250 Pro XS, which is where most tournament fishermen are setting. Where's that motor sitting in the retail market?
I always see there's kind of a rule, and if you kind of think about $100 a horsepower,
$100 a horse,
it's going to come around. So if you're looking at like 115, you're looking at about $11,000 to $12,000. You know, this MSRP. But of course, you've got to remember there's a prop you're going to need to buy, and there's the riggings if you're changing out your motors, gauges. One of the the things that Mercury does is we ask the consumer, what do you want? And they say, well, we want to be able to see our hours whenever we want. We want to be able to know where we are on the water. So we come out with a Best of View Mobile that they can download the app on their phone.
Really?
And so you can put this on any of our motors from 40 horsepower and up. Best of View Mobile, you hook it up. Every time you start the motor, you open your phone, look at your app, and all your information is there.
Is it doing the diagnostics too, to some degree? Is it telling me if there's engine issues or stuff?
It'll tell you if there's an engine issue, but it will, after it tells you about an engine issue, it's basically saying, let's call the dealer.
Yeah, it's warning
now, it is smart enough, it sends a note back to a dealer if you pick as your preferred dealer, it'll send them a message on our system. They can look up in our system and go, oh yeah, Bob's got this issue. It's code da-da-da. This is what it means.
Wow.
And Bob, be careful, get off the water, or you know what, it's no big deal, let's make an appointment next week.
But you know, that's really key. We're sitting on the edge over here of Lake Michigan. Okay, that's a big body of water. So if you're out there, let's say you're offshore a ways, and to be honest with you, you can be miles out there, and if an issue came up, if something went terribly wrong, there might even be somebody to say, hey, these guys' motor's down.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I mean, I think now that we've got the technology, we got the ability, we grow on it every day. So, you know, we can constantly add more bells and whistles to that app and be able to do more and more.
Wow.
It gets it to the point where it says, hey, Bob, you've hit 100 hours, you need to get it serviced. It'll let you know that stuff. You can constantly check it. It'll tell you what service you need to be done at what hours. You know, do I need an impeller change? Do I need a water pump change? It'll let you know that
It'll
stuff.
let you know.
Yeah.
This is a strength, and I'll tell you why. And I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
But this is a strength, because if your water pressure starts to slip, there's an issue happening, and that issue can be volatile. Okay? So knowing that that's happening prevents that. That saves the manufacturer a lot of money, and it brings a point to any weakness that might be in the development of that product somewhere along. Because everybody knows it's a mechanical device. It stands to have some weakness, time or not.
Well, it's made by human beings. We have to remember that.
Exactly.
And you know, the saddest thing I ever hear is when people say the best day of my life is when I sold my boat. That means that they didn't have a good boating experience.
Yes, 100%.
They didn't enjoy it. Well, every minute you're on the boat, we want it enjoyable. We don't want people to have to worry. We don't want people to have to be concerned about what's going to happen. Let them be educated. Let them know what's happening. Let them be warned.
Information is power.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And the technology and the generations moving up want that power. They want to know. I mean, even in the booth the last couple of days, the more and more people that come in are asking me, why can't I know exactly what that code is so maybe I can fix it myself? Or this, so they're begging for information, begging for knowledge. But you also have to remember, these are technical motors.
Yes, they are.
We need to take them to qualified technical people to do the repairs.
Exactly. I mean, I'm driving a brand new Chevy 1-ton 3500 series, you know, Z71 truck. When you pull that hood, I don't care who you are, stay out.
Yeah.
Stay out. There's people who have gone to school, there's people with the tools, there's people with the knowledge.
The computers, they need to let them look at it.
Let them do their job.
Fix it. Simple stuff. I'm not saying you can't change your oil. I'm not saying that kind of stuff. But I am saying that we have one of the best marine dealers, all the best marine dealers in the United States, that we have them trained. We offer Great Mercury University to train them. We have different tools for them to do diagnostics and that. That's what we should use them for.
You bring up an interesting deal. How many Mercury dealers are there? Do you know in the United States? I know I did put you on the spot.
I don't know exactly. Yeah. I know there's close to 4,000 in the United States and Canada.
The reason I point that out, let me step back in time. I shot television for 35 plus years, traveled all over the planet. I was standing on a dock one day, and a gentleman pulled in with his Suzuki, and he was having issues with it. Where I was standing, that dealer said, "There's nothing I can do for you. I'm not a certified Suzuki dealer. I can't do anything. I can recommend you put it on your trailer and try to find somebody that can. I can't even tell you my mechanics can look at it. I'm a Merc Yamaha dealer. I don't deal with Suzuki." And right then and there, that day, I looked at that, there's some validity in that if you're fishing off course.
Yeah.
If you're not fishing on Lake Winnebago or down in the Madison chain or someplace where there's a dealer around the corner,
and like you just made a good point. One of the things that a person needs to think about when they buy any product, I don't care if it's a car, a boat, a motor, whatever, they're made by human beings.
Yep.
And there may be an issue. There may not, and there may be. If there is an issue, the last thing we want is to have to travel far to get it fixed. The last thing we want is to have to search for somebody to help us. And I always say to people, look around your area where you spend 80% of your time boating. Not 20, 80% of your time boating. Will you have the technical support you feel you need?
Yeah.
That's
critical.
cool.
Another, you talk about technical support. We run Team Fishing Circuit, which is it's a young circuit that's geared to the everyday angler to come in and compete for relatively large money with a low investment side of it. That being said, that's just a beginning of a tournament fisherman's life. When they get to the upper scale, I know for a fact, and you can correct me because I cannot be corrected here, I know for a fact that Mercury has support teams at these major events that make sure that if something goes down, because we all know it is a human product, that if something goes down, Mercury is there saying, hey, boom, boom. Now, I was watching the Bassmaster Classic not too long ago, like last week, and one of the anglers on there made a point of saying, my Mercury had an issue, and they took care of it, got me back on the water, and I was ready to fish. That's a strength. That's huge.
That's an important thing. All the way from the fishermen in your team, all the way up to have that support is very important. Some of the smaller tournaments have local dealers that will stay and they'll be supporting it, Mercury dealers. As you get into the bigger major tournaments and that, yes, we do have, I'm not sure if we have 3 or if we have 4 support trucks that actually have a tech on that travel from tournament to tournaments. And they help anytime they can. Usually a couple days for pre-fishing and all the way to the day of the last day of the tournament.
That's impressive. Not only is it impressive that you're doing it, but it's impressive that there's enough people running your brand, which means they have confidence that you need that trailer there. That's, people just looking on the outside, that's a bigger thing to me than anything. That means those guys that do this for a living, and you should be aware of this, if they're doing it for a living, they got to have good equipment. So they're choosing it, which means you've got, that's amazing.
The market share is very, very important in these tournaments, and we hold a really good market share in all of the tournaments. In the Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa area that I cover, our tournaments are all very strong Mercury. And you're right, if we need to make sure they're supported or helped in any way they can, and me as a rep are always trying to help them get anything that I can.
We're going to do a little jump cut here. We're going to have some fun. We're talking about bass fishermen. We're talking about bass boats. I mean, we all know these things are at the top of the game. I mean, they're made for the elite. That being said, pontoons are taking over they're taking over the water. And I know from talking to Jim, my friend that's got the new one on there that says I'm going to be doing it soon. He says his motor is lighter weight than what's on my boat right now. Is that a fact, or is he just pulling my leg?
Well, the 4-stroke product that is created now or manufactured now is the lightest weight it's ever been. So there are a lot of them that are as light, if not lighter, than the old 2-stroke.
Yeah, well, he's probably right then. And in pontoons, we were on Forest Lake over in Minnesota. We were just pleasure fishing out one day, bass fishing. And there come a pontoon down the lake. Debbie, I'm not kidding you when I say that it had more lift than my bass boat. And I mean, I'm looking at this thing going, oh my goodness, what is that? And it got closer and closer and closer. This guy had three 300 Mercuries on the back of it.
Wow.
3 of them bolted on the back. And I looked at him and I said, whoa, because he slowed down. And I said, man, that's as close to overkill as I've ever seen. And he says, pick your own poison.
and that's, I mean, you got to remember pontooning is growing so much. And some of these guys that were going in the big wakeboards and everything, they're maturing or they're older, having kids or this or that, and they have to move into a pontoon. Well, they still want to go fast and they still want to do their thing. And they want to ski behind them. They want to tube. They want to wakeboard. Yeah. And we are here, like I said earlier, that's what we're here for, to listen to the customer, figure out what they want to do on the water, make sure we keep them on the water, and give them that satisfaction on the water.
Yeah, they're paying for more than just the brand. They're paying for the service, the reliability, the quality, the technology, the engineering, the lifestyle. I mean, it's a whole conglomeration of things that are mixed up in that decision making. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say this, I don't mean to be derogatory, but in the old days when I was fishing bass tournaments, very seriously, they said if you go black, you never go back. And I think that's true.
I totally agree with you there. But I think that part of it is too that when you have good experience and you have a company like Mercury Marine that is not just selling you the motor.
Yeah.
They're selling you the motor, they're selling you the accessories, they're selling you the prop, they're selling you the experience. They're helping you create that lifestyle and helping you have that fun. That's when you want to stay with them.
And you keyed in on something there just briefly, props. You guys make your own props.
Absolutely.
I have friends of mine that live up in northern Wisconsin who were involved at Mercury building props.
Yep.
Years ago, they point blank told me under no uncertain terms, we make them. We make them. And Mercury makes some very interesting wheels. Now, wheels, to those who don't know, are what we call a prop on the back of a boat. So that being said, the rake and the cup and all of these things are built into not only the horsepower, but the application. And you guys understand, from a dealer perspective and from a manufacturer's perspective, if I'm rigging out a pontoon, I may run a 21-inch with a 19-inch
19 pitch.
And if I'm running a bass boat, I might run a 24-inch with a 26-inch. Yep. So there's a difference between the two, and you guys have got it dialed in.
Well, and with the ability of making our own props, we work very strong with all the boat builders, and we actually have a person that works with them. We call them PAEs, but they work with them to make sure that they're making this boat with this motor, which one of our props will give them the best performance. And we help them realize that. So by the time that boat reaches the dealer, we know what prop we need to make to get on that boat, so that consumer is going to get the best performance out of that boat motor.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who runs Basscat, and he said that the folks at Basscat work so close with you guys that they understand what the torque is doing, and they're building their hulls to work in concert with what the prop is doing.
Partnership.
Yeah.
I always say you have to have a really good partnership, not only with me with my dealerships, partnership. Mercury has good partnerships with the manufacturers, the OEMs, and the dealers. If you don't have the good partnerships to understand each other and help each other through it all, you all have to make changes. We make changes, they make changes. You
guys have got it dialed in. There's no question. You've spent a lot of time, a lot of money. You've been around a long, long time. It's not a drop in the bucket deal. Debbie, on our way out of here right now, I want you to tell our audience, and it'll go into thousands, I want you to tell our audience and I know we've said some of it, but give me a couple of points on what they need to take with them the next time they go buy a motor. Let's say they're not running your brand. Let's just say you want to convince them to change. How do we do that?
You mean to change the Mercury brand?
Or go to a Mercury from another brand.
The first thing you want to do is when you're looking at buying a motor, let's plan on what you want to do on the water 80% of the time. Okay, like I said to you earlier, you're marrying up your motor with you. So 80% of that time you need to be in love with that motor.
Gotta happen.
The other 20% you'll handle. Figure out what you want to do. Then make sure the dealer you're dealing with can help you find what they have or what the product is that can give you that satisfaction. if you're pontooning, if you're bass fishing, if you're, skiing or whatever, let's make sure that you look at what product is offered on that boat, what brand. Mercury has brands for everything. There isn't a boating situation out there that we can't match and give a good satisfaction to me.
That's an amazing comment. That really is. That's totally amazing.
So you definitely want to check. You want to check into all that.
One more thing before I let you go.
Yes.
4 strokes are a different animal than the 2 strokes. Okay. You're running oil like a crankcase, like an automobile. What's the hours that are necessary in the V6s, the V8s, the bigger motors before you have to change out their oil?
Well, we recommend, and the owner's manual will tell them exactly, but we recommend that they start it up and run it. After the first 20 hours, let's check everything, make sure everything's good and clean. After that, you can run 100 hours. And that, in the Midwest up here, you're going to winterize your boat. You're going to winterize your motor. So normally, they don't put on quite over 100 hours. So I go in the spring, make sure you springize it and get out there. And then in the fall, make sure you go to a good dealer and winterize it. Change your oil, change your gasket. And then that's when you want to look at your owner's manual and find out, when are they telling me to change my water pump? When is it telling me to look at my impellers? And sometimes it's 100 hours, sometimes it's 200. You definitely want to look at that owner's manual and stick on that maintenance plan.
It does come back to that relationship with your dealer, doesn't it? It really does. It comes right back to it. I'm telling you, hey folks, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you here right now. We took Debbie out of the booth, okay? This show is packed. If I told you there was people in here, I'm not lying. This place is a zoo. We're going to let Debbie get back. I want to thank her for coming on with us. Mercury is, well, let's face it, they are for all intents and purposes where you need to focus if you're going to be buying a new motor. If you got that clunk or clang going on back there and it's not doing what its job, or it's not getting you out of the hole like you wanted it to, it's not pulling your skiers, it's not getting your bass boat up on top or your John boat back to your duck spot. These people are the kind of people that can make your day more enjoyable. As Debbie said, that's what they're all about. 80% in love, folks. That's what she said. That being said, this is Bob Mehsikomer wanting to say thanks to Debbie for being on the show with us. We want to thanks for Mercury for supporting not only this show, but supporting the industry. So that being said, I want to say one more time, we'll be back a little bit later with another interview, but for that, God bless everybody. We'll see you on the flip. Bye-bye.